The film opens with Terry Richmond, a veteran, riding his bike down the road while listening to music. However, he is suddenly struck by Officer Evan Marston and his partner. Immediately, Officer Steve Lan handcuffs Terry, asserting that they tried to stop him, but he refused to yield. He explains that he didn't hear them because he was wearing headphones, but this does not change the officer's demeanor. They begin to thoroughly investigate Terry, asking personal questions about his identity. At this point, Officer Evans searches through Terry's backpack and discovers a package. Terry refuses to allow the inspection of the package, prompting the police to decide to arrest him and call in the K-9 unit. Evan informs him that it will take an hour for the unit to arrive, but since Terry is in a hurry, he ultimately agrees to let them search. In Terry's bag, the police discover a large amount of cash, raising their suspicion that it might be drug money. Terry insists that the money is his, and that he needs it to post bail for his cousin in court. Officer Steve notes that the amount totals nearly $30,000 and asks why Terry's cousin is in custody. Terry explains that $10,000 is for bail, while the rest is intended for purchasing a truck and a trailer. Terry's cousin, Mike, was arrested for possession of marijuana, even though he wasn't selling it. The police decided to release Terry but kept his money, suspecting it was drug money. Terry tried to justify himself, saying he got the money from selling a car and had just used part of it to buy a steak at Ken Long Chinese restaurant. Devin informed him that they would hold the money for 30 days to complete the paperwork, and if not, Terry could face charges of fraud and money laundering. Reluctantly, Terry had to accept this condition. After being released, he retrieved his bicycle and quickly headed to the courthouse. At the courthouse, Terry met Elliot, a court clerk. He asked Elliot to post bail for his cousin and explained that the police had seized all his money. However, Elliot refused to help because Terry didn't have enough funds and mentioned that the jail was under renovation, so all prisoners would be transferred to state prison. Elliot's shift ended, and he left, which only made Terry angrier since his cousin was in trouble. Before leaving, Elliot introduced Terry to Summer McBride, another court clerk and an upcoming law school graduate, to assist him. Terry and Summer went out for drinks, where Summer revealed that the local police often used legal tricks to seize people's money in a non-transparent manner. After taking money from the public, the police kept it for themselves and called it slush funds. Terry revealed that his cousin Mike had helped the police apprehend some dangerous criminals by providing information. However, if Mike was transferred to state prison, he risked retaliation from other inmates. Mike was expected to be moved on Thursday, so Summer advised Terry to quickly raise more money to post bail for his cousin. After that, they each went their separate ways, while Terry called Mr. Lo Yu, the owner of a Chinese restaurant, and also his partner. He requested Mr. Lo Yu to lend him $10,000, and Mr. Lo Yu agreed to transfer the money within a few hours. At night, Terry found the address of the police station for one of the officers who had arrested him. The next morning, he decided to go to the station to report a robbery to Officer Jessica Sims, during which he described the robbers as looking exactly like Evan and Steve. Just then, Officer Steve walked in and interrupted the report, accusing Terry of making it up. Chief Sandy Burns intervened, offending her subordinate and ordering Terry to leave. However, Terry suggested that Sandy keep the seized money and only return the bail amount. At this proposal, greed took over and Sandy agreed. Terry wanted to meet his cousin before he was transferred, and Sandy scheduled the meeting for 9 a.m. on Thursday. However, when Terry arrived at the police station on time, the prisoner transport bus had already left early because Sandy had intentionally changed the schedule. Terry hurriedly chased after the bus, advising his cousin to request protection upon arriving at the prison. After that, Terry went to meet Summer to ask for her help. When he found Summer at the back of the police station, she informed him that she had uncovered some damaging information about the police department, enough to potentially arrest them. Summer revealed that the judge was also involved in Mike's case and that Terry needed to bring the bail money to Elliot's desk as soon as possible. Shortly after, Terry returned to the police station, confronted the police chief directly, and threatened to force him to comply. However, Officer Steve intervened and the situation became chaotic. During the scuffle, Terry disarmed both of them, cuffed them with Officer Sims' own handcuffs, and then locked them in the property room. There, he found dozens of weapons, along with a large sum of cash. Sticking to their original agreement, Terry only took $10,000 for Mike's bail and left the rest for the guys in the blue suits. Terry emptied all the bullets from Jessica's gun and asked her, pretend to handcuff him, then gently drove him away to avoid being shot by the guards outside. Jessica took Steve's car and drove Terry to safety while warning him about the police situation. Terry quickly returned to the courthouse, bringing the money to Elliot's desk, while Summer went to get the judge's signature for the bail paperwork. However, the police suddenly burst into the courthouse and arrested Terry. They took him down to the courthouse basement for a health check, and that even led him to meet Police Chief Sandy, after which the three of them got into a car and left. While driving, Sandy candidly revealed everything, laying all the cards on the table. He admitted his mistake in getting involved with Terry, especially after checking his background. The car stopped at a hospital, where Sandy returned the remaining money to Terry, emphasizing that if Terry remained silent, acted as if nothing had happened, he would be safe. Otherwise, Terry could face 30 years in prison for assaulting them. Sandy also disclosed that Mike had been attacked in prison, was currently being transferred to this hospital. Overwhelmed with anger and emotion, Terry accepted the deal. Before leaving, Sandy warned Terry never to come back to town, or they would eliminate him for good. Terry entered Mike's hospital room, but unfortunately, he had not survived. Overwhelmed with grief, Terry asked Summer to drive him back to town. However, they noticed a police officer tailing them. Summer revealed that it was a friend from the police force who was watching her for personal reasons. She tried to explain to Terry that there had been many similar cases to Mike's, and the police needed to these truths. However, Terry only felt frustration and didn't want to hear more. He gave Summer his phone number so she could contact him in case of an emergency, then said goodbye to her. Summer returned home and woke up in the middle of the night to find someone had entered her house and drugged her. Seeing the police car magnet on her refrigerator, Wood panicked. She called Terry, who immediately drove to her house. Upon breaking in, he found Summer in the bathroom, still alive. Summer revealed that she was okay because the drug the police had injected her with, one she had used before. She had a daughter but had lost custody due to her history of addiction. Now, she was worried that if they drug tested her tomorrow, she might permanently lose custody of her child. Terry reassured Summer not to worry and took her to his workplace. There, to his surprise, the judge wanted to see Summer and asked her to take a drug test, implying that he was cooperating with the police. Summer felt scared but decided to comply. She provided a urine sample, unable to hold back her tears as she thought about her fate. Meanwhile, Terry unexpectedly ran into Officer Steve. He had summoned his colleagues to block Terry's path. As Terry complied, Steve suddenly shot him. Wounded but unwilling to surrender, Terry fought back using a stun gun to attack Steve, then quickly drove into the fields to escape. Terry decided to abandon the truck and walk back to his Chinese restaurant hotel. He called Summer, asking her to bring him a disposable phone. When Summer arrived at the restaurant with the phone, she found Terry injured while Mr. Liu was bandaging him up. The two quickly devised a plan to gather evidence of the police's misconduct to expose them. They decided to disguise themselves and break into the judge's house to question him about the corruption within the force. The judge eventually revealed that he had been collaborating with Sandy for a long time, and due to the police department's dwindling budget, he had been illegally funneling his own money to handling procedures through the court, where defendants had to fight to reclaim their rights. However, they always failed whenever the judge brought a case to trial because the defendants also received money, and the state had legalized this, with a portion of the funds going into the government's treasury. The police frequently conducted traffic stops, which made the situation even more difficult, similar to what Terry had experienced at the beginning of the film. These stops were all recorded by cameras mounted in the police cars, and they could become crucial evidence to expose the misconduct of the force. Terry and Summer decided to steal these video recordings, which were currently stored in the courthouse basement. They entered the courthouse and discovered the police were in front. In an attempt to destroy the evidence room, they started a fire, but Summer quickly extinguished the flames. In the chaos, they managed to steal the memory card and set another fire to erase all traces. Terry stepped outside to wait for Summer while she went to collect a urine sample. Unfortunately, she was caught by the police. As Terry waited outside, he realized that the police were abducting her. Determined to rescue Summer, he followed them to a shaded area where they parted ways and left. One officer stayed behind, and Terry quickly seized this opportunity. He lunged into the police car, choked the officer, and cuffed him for questioning. Terry used the radio to contact Sandy, hoping to get the necessary information. Sandy made a deal with Summer in exchange for the memory card, and Terry agreed. Sandy instructed him to meet at Don's Rebel Ridge. Don's men waited at Rebel Ridge all night, but Terry never showed up. Meanwhile, Sandy received a call from Terry. While Officer Evan believed he had located Terry's vehicle, Terry informed Sandy that there was no turning back. On the other hand, Officer Evan discovered that Terry was not in the car but instead found Officer McGill, who Terry had tied to the seat, where he was inside the police station, where he had torn down the back wall of Officer Jessica's car. Officer Jessica immediately alerted the remaining colleagues about Terry's location, and they promptly returned to the police station. Sandy, driven by greed, quickly went to get the money while Terry was loading weapons from the armory. He shot Sandy with beanbag rounds instead of real bullets. Jessica appeared, and Terry cooperated since she was his friend. Summer suggested that Terry should trust Jessica with the memory cards and advised her to release them. Terry confiscated Sandy's arsenal, but Sandy's men showed up outside. Terry handed Jessica a loaded gun for support and began loading Sandy's money into the vehicle to fuel up. Jessica turned to Terry and emphasized that she didn't want any shooting, so she suggested taking him outside. However, Officer Steve appeared and confronted Terry, crushing the memory cards underfoot. Steve revealed that he had taken down Summer, allowing them to shoot Terry right now without fear of any witnesses. Officer Evans recognized the mistakes in their approach and decided to protect Terry. The situation escalated as they all pointed their guns at each other. Sandy shot Evan in the leg, seizing his weapon. Terry looked at Jessica, who was lowering her gun to give him a chance to escape with Evan. They found refuge behind a car and threw smoke grenades to conceal themselves. Evan instructed Terry to turn on the dash cam in the car, and after 3 minutes, the recordings would be streamed live. Terry took down each officer one by one without killing them. Eventually, he came across Steve and decided to take revenge for being shot. Terry got into Steve's car, where Summer was lying, and activated the dash cam. Terry drove to rescue Evan, pulling him out of the station while Steve tried to block their path. Summer quickly pushed Steve out of the way, creating an opportunity for them to escape. Sandy and his crew chased after them, but Jessica crashed into Sandy's car to support Terry. In the end, Terry drove to the hospital, where they took Summer and Evan into the emergency room. He removed the storage device from the camera in the car and kept it as evidence to expose Sandy. The story ends here. Hope you enjoyed this summary. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching and see you next time.